This is a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
We're going to take you to the Alex Murdaugh hearing that took place today. Jurors being questioned, including Becky Hill, regarding possible improprieties or jury tampering in the Alex Murdaugh murder trial. Let's go there right now.
To your knowledge, had Ms. Hill ever been the clerk of court that managed a murder trial prior to this?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
So this was her first murder trial, as far as you know?
As far as I know of this magnitude, I don't know if they had one before then or not.
Okay. Now, when did y'all, I mean, initially, what were you talking about in terms of logistics and how you did it and all those sorts of things?
Yes, sir.
During that, before the trial, before we ever picked a jury, did she ever discuss with you that she was going to write a book?
Yes, sir. She wanted to write a book. Yes,
wanted
sir.
to write a book. Did she indicate what the book was going to be about?
About the trial?
About the Murdaugh trial?
Yes, sir.
And did she discuss with you, what if anything did she discuss with you, about how she felt the verdict should turn out to be in the Murdaugh trial, vis-a-vis in reference to the book? What would help the book?
A guilty verdict.
And tell the judge and me what exactly she said to you that you remember. This is prior to the trial.
Okay. Well, first of all, she said we might want to write a book because she needed a lake house and I needed to retire. And then further conversations, a guilty verdict would sell more books. And we left it at that. This was before, even in December.
And when did she ever say that again to you during the weeks you spent there?
Several times. It could be said it was, amongst friends in her office, or we might be having dinner, that kind of stuff, but that's about it.
That she needed a guilty verdict to sell more books?
That would be the best way to sell books, yes, sir.
The best way to sell books. Now, during this process, did she ever express to you an opinion on whether or not, in fact, was Mr. Murdaugh guilty of the murders of his son and his wife?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what she said, and if you remember when.
I don't exactly remember when. I know it's over half of the trial had already happened, but the evidence was coming forth that it looked like he might be guilty, and she made a comment that guilty verdict would be better for the sale of books.
Okay. Now, as a result of a conversation you had sometime during the trial, I don't want you to relay to me what was told you. Did you have a discussion with the clerk, Becky Hill, about her being with jurors on her own?
Yes, sir, I did. One morning I showed up to Colleton County, and I was told that she had taken a juror home the night before. And I was in the courtroom and I saw her, and it was between the pews and where the back row pews are. And I mentioned to Miss Becky, I said, please tell me you didn't take a juror home last night. And she told me, she says, I did, but I didn't talk about the case. I had a bailiff with me. Mr. Bill was with me. I said, Becky, you don't do things like that. I thought we had stopped everything. It wasn't far enough along to really cause a major problem, or I would have told Judge Newman. But I thought we had an understanding that you did not spend time alone with the jurors.
Okay. Now, I'm going to read you some statements. Well, first of all, did you ever hear her say anything in front of you to a juror about whether or not, on the merits of the case, that is, whether or not he was guilty or innocent, or what you should pay attention to? Did you ever hear her, what, if anything, did you ever hear her say to a juror or in the presence of a juror? Anything?
No, sir.
Okay. But let me ask you if you've ever heard her say these statements, and if so, to who? Don't be fooled by the evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys, which I understand. Do not be fooled by the evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys. You ever hear her say that?
Your Honor, this time I would object. This witness was specifically called as a Rule 16.3b extrinsic evidence. I think we've covered the two grounds that would be permissible for her to testify to, and I believe that should be the extent of her testimony. So we would object to any further extrinsic evidence as improper impeachment and also irrelevant. I think that the issues that were raised with the prior witness have been covered, and that was the express reason that this witness was called, and Your Honor allowed the testimony.
Overruled. You may continue.
Thank you. Did you ever hear her say that?
Can you repeat the verbiage?
Don't be fooled by the evidence presented by Mr. Murdaugh's attorneys.
Yes, I did.
And who was it said to?
It was said to me.
Okay.
And sometimes there might be a staff member in her office or someone from the media there. But other than that, I didn't hear her say it out there in front of any jurors.
Did she ever say to you or to other people around you, I'm not talking about jurors, watch him closely, talking about Mr. Murdaugh, this is just before he testified, look at his actions, look at his movements. Did you ever hear her say that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever have any conversations with the bailiff, Mr. Bill?
Yes, sir.
Did he ever discuss with you the clerk's contact with jurors?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever hear her say that the defense is going to try to confuse the jurors? Did you ever hear her say that?
No, sir, I don't think so.
Okay. Now, let me deal with one last area. Let me see if I can simplify this. There was a setup in the courtroom. Pardon me, I've got a little frog in my throat. I'm fine, thank you.
I think I'll share my bottle over here if he wants part of it.
Once a clerk, always a clerk, Your Honor. And I was there, you were there, this judge was not there. And prosecution tables over here, defense tables over here, judges up here, and then there's a rail behind which the clerk was. And because of all the massive electronic equipment we had there with big screens, there was an area over on my right facing the judge. And then I think you were located in that area right between the judge and that area. Is that correct?
Talking about in the well area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, sir. For
Now-
the most part, now sometimes I was out there with the screen
Right.
in the gallery.
Right. But there was a screen on which you could see not only what the gallery back there could see, but the images that only the jury was supposed to see that were under seal. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, there's a woman named Rhonda Ryder, correct?
Rich.
Rich. And tell me who she is.
At the time, we did not know who she was. The first time they were there, we didn't know. Then she came in Miss Becky's office the night before, and she asked if she could have another seat in the courtroom for the next day. And Miss Becky said yes. And she says, and what's your name again? And the only reason why I remember Rhonda, because, of course, my name being Rhonda. And the next day, Miss Rich was sitting, I don't know how to tell you, but she was sitting. Do you know where Doug was sitting?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I know, Judge, you don't know where Doug was sitting, but anyhow.
But Doug was the audiovisual guy, and he had access to the unscreened, the unsealed images, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she was sitting right next to him, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In that little part. And
So she could see the body cam, she could see the unredacted corpse pictures, the autopsy pictures, all the photos that the judge had sealed, correct?
well, no, the only thing she could see was what was being put up at the time.
Right. But
Okay.
as they were put up, she could see them.
Right, but they tried their best to seal it where you couldn't, but you could still see it there. I didn't see any of the photos,
Right.
okay?
But she could see them.
Right, and Doug was really having a problem with that. And I can also tell you that our court reporters didn't know who she was either, okay?
Okay. And she turns out to be a writer, correct?
Yes, sir, after I found out, yes, sir.
And her name is Rhonda Rich.
Correct.
She was given access to areas that only court personnel should have had access
Right,
to.
but then we broke, and then she moved her in the well with me. She was about on my left, and either Elizabeth or Mike was on my right, and I noticed she was taking notes. And I asked her what was she doing, taking notes. She says, I'm a Sunday school teacher. Well, I immediately covered up everything I had.
You don't trust Sunday school teachers?
So,
You don't trust Sunday school teachers?
let me just, there's too many preachers in my family on both sides, okay?
So you determined she was not a Sunday school teacher, and later learned that she was a writer writing about the Murdaugh case, correct?
Now, I don't know if she's ever a Sunday school teacher or not. There's just, I don't even know where she goes to church or anything, so I can't tell you that answer. But I did find out that she was a writer because shortly after she was put there, and evidently after I covered everything up, shortly after that, Judge Newman asked for a recess so we could find where people were going to be working. And that's when she put Miss Rich out in the gallery in control of that screen.
And she ended up writing the foreword to Becky's book, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Becky gave her access to area only court personnel should have had, is that correct?
That is true. But now, I'll be honest with you, sir, there's been a couple times when we had other people that were sitting on that side where we weren't planning on seeing sealed documents that day.
Right.
But there were some other people that sat there, but nobody that actually sat in the well that wasn't court people.
Okay. Thank you, court's indulgence.
Mr. Waters, on cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just like that, 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Judge, do you have an extra bottle of water up there by any chance you're willing to share? Oh, Miss Elizabeth's got one. Thank you.
Great.
Ms. Buckley, how you doing today?
I'm good, sir. Please call me Rhonda.
I always called you Miss Rhonda. I've known you for a long time as well. In fact,
Yes, sir.
I tried one of those murder cases in front of you years ago. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Wanted to ask a couple things. I won't be that long. One of the things that you said earlier is you said when you initially were talking to Miss Hill, she said something like, we ought to write a book or something
That is correct.
Okay. And so did y'all have any further discussion about you writing the book or participating with the book?
Oh,
or anything
no,
like
sir.
that?
I'm crazy enough not to write one.
Okay. During the course of, though, after the trial, she did send you like chapters and things like that to take a look at.
I did get to see a couple of drafts of the manual.
Okay, so she did send you those to take a look at and review and that sort of thing. Is
Correct.
that correct? Okay. All right. And you were asked and again, Your Honor, just to be clear, I'd made some objections.
You do not waive any objections by cross-examination. They are all preserved.
Thank
You
you.
may proceed.
Thank you. You mentioned, some statements that you attributed to Ms. Hill, during the course of conversations during the course of the trial. Is that correct? Just things like watching closely, watches mannerism, things like that. And where were those conversations? Were those conversations taking place back in the clerk's offices with clerk staff and people like that?
Yes, sir, in the clerk's office. It might have been downstairs in the bathroom.
Okay.
That some of us had privilege to go to.
All right. So you and Miss Becky and other court staff maybe just discussing the case and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And people were expressing their opinions about what was going on and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Now, when we were having those discussions, there weren't more than 1 or 2, maybe 3 people there.
Okay. But just a few people there just talking back behind the scenes. That's what I'm
Correct.
driving at.
Yes, sir, behind the
It was
scenes.
behind the scenes, and it's not uncommon for, clerk staff behind the scenes, not to the parties, not to the litigants, not to the jurors, but among themselves back in, in the hallways back there to talk about the day's activities and things like that. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's a big difference between the natural conversations that people that work together, court staff and the like, have with each other, and actually having those conversations in front of the jurors, right? There's a big difference between those two, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's not uncommon for you. You're a clerk of court. You got people that work for you. Y'all are going to have private conversations about what's going on that are not to be shared, particularly with jurors, but with the public as well. Is that fair to say?
That is true.
Okay. All right, and so there were conversations like that going on that you were privy to and part of. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, and you mentioned a little bit about, well, let me ask you this. So there are all these conversations going on, and that's natural. That happens, private conversations with court staff behind closed doors. But you never once saw or observed or had anyone tell you that any of those conversations were being shared by Miss Becky with any juror. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, and if that had happened, if you had observed anything untoward or improper going on at this particular trial, you would have immediately gone to Judge Newman as part of your obligation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you never did that because you never observed anything like that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Now, you were asked a little bit about Rhonda Rich, who was a member of the media, and how she was placed kind of back where the defense IT guy was. Is that correct?
I didn't say she was part of the media, sir.
Okay, well, she was a writer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and then you said that eventually, though, Judge Newman stepped in, and then she was moved out into the gallery in charge of the screen out there.
Right, but I don't know. I thought Miss Becky moved. I'm not saying Judge Newman did.
Okay. All right, and over there in that area of the, if we look in the courtroom, there was sort of the grand jury box over here, and that was where court TV was and media was stationed and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and inevitably there were media members that could view some of the images that were being shown. They were just not able to report those just because of the nature of where the courtroom was. Is that accurate?
Well, I was told they couldn't see it, so I don't know what they actually saw because I didn't discuss it with the media.
All right. You never had a conversation with court TV or anything like that?
Other than the fact, be careful what they put on my front page of the New York Times on me.
All right. All right. And you're not aware of any image or confidential information or sealed image or anything like that was ever made privy to Miss Rich that was put in any sort of publication or anything like that. Is that correct?
Not I'm aware of, sir.
Okay. Because if you had found out about that too, you would have immediately gone and reported that to Judge Newman because you would have said, that's improper. That I need to go report to the judge, correct?
Correct.
And you never once saw anything during the entire course of this trial that caused you to say, you know what, I got to go talk to Judge Newman. Something ain't right about what's going on here. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you would have done that without a doubt if you had seen that, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in looking at, back at this trial, you mentioned that there was a few days at the beginning of trial that you weren't there because you had your own court to take care of back in Barnwell County, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then pretty much after that, I guess you were pretty much present the majority of the remainder of the time. Is that fair to say?
I was. I had one for medical procedure done. I missed 2 days, but basically other than that, I was there every day.
All right. And there was a period of time, though, during the middle of the trial where Miss Becky had a medical issue and had to be absent from the courtroom for about a week or something like that.
That is correct.
Okay. And during that period of time, you were present and functioning as the lead clerk of court during that period of time.
That is correct.
All right. So the reality is that you were present for probably as much, if not more than anyone in the clerk's function during the course of this trial. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, just to reiterate, there was not one time that you observed or came in possession of any information that you were like, I got to go talk to Judge Newman about this.
No, sir.
All right. Court's in Dover. 1 moment.
Very good. Mr. Harcourt, ma'am? Yes, sir.
Half a question.
All right.
Mr. Waters indicated to you that you were not aware of whether or not, and you agreed, that you never witnessed her talking to a juror about the evidence. Is that correct? We
That is
agree on
correct.
that. Do you know, but she did admit to you that she had been with a juror alone in a car for some period of time when you confronted her with that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did she indicate to you what she talked to that juror about while they're alone in the car?
No, sir. She told me, the only thing she told me was that she did not discuss the case, that she had Mr. Bill, the bailiff, with her, and he could tell her that. Tell that.
And when she said she didn't discuss the case, did you bring that up or did she bring that up?
She brought that up.
You didn't say shouldn't be with him because it's frowned upon?
I did tell her that I would caution her on doing that because the perception of dealing with the jurors one-on-one is not tolerated.
Is not tolerated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McElveen. You may be excused.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Harpootlian, call your next witness.
Your Honor, we would call juror 741.
I know you're not going to. Well, that's right. She's an alternate. That's all right.
We're not going to sign her a letter. We're just going to 741.
I got you.
And Your Honor, while she's coming, my understanding is I'm limited to 4 questions.
Yes, sir. I have a copy, and I have given the court reporter a copy of this affidavit with the name obscured and the number, I think, as well. So, but the affidavit that supports this testimony that you're about to offer is Court's Exhibit 5.
Other than a little factual background about her getting picked for the jury and how long she was on the jury and
That's
that she got
fine.
excused. That's all we intend on asking these 4 questions.
All right, sir.
Unless Mr. Waters asks.
Sure. I mean, they'll have cross-examination.
I'll be crossing, so.
He would definitely open the door.
That, all right.
He's limited to the 4 questions initially, is that?
Yes.
No, sir. He's just telling me that's what he intends to do. Sometimes you can hold lawyers to that, and sometimes you can't, Mr. Miller.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I intend on only asking her those 4 questions.
That's fine.
It doesn't
Yeah.
the numbers.
Yeah. I'll talk with the lawyer. Just do it that way.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do. Thank you. Please have a seat and witness stand.
Your Honor, I assume the same rules apply to her that apply to the other jurors in terms of her image appearing.
That's correct. All right. There'll be no photograph made of this particular witness who was an alternate juror in the matter. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to refer to you as juror 741. It's what we got to do here so we don't use your name so people don't know who you are. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
And you and I have met before.
Correct.
I came to your home one Sunday afternoon. I believe you're cooking Sunday dinner, and we talked. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you were interviewed by SWED,
Correct.
and you gave them a recorded statement. And then this morning you came here and you gave me an affidavit that you signed, and you're here with your lawyer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, just for purposes of the record, you were a juror. You were selected to be a juror on the State versus Alex Murdaugh murder charge, correct?
Correct.
And you sat in the courtroom for 6 weeks and listened to all the testimony.
Correct.
And you were the alternate.
Correct.
And so when the jury went out to deliberate, you were excused. Is that correct? Now, I'm going to go through a series of questions based on your affidavit, okay?
Okay.
Which you signed this morning, which was based on our initial interview with you and your interview with Sled. This is basically the same thing you told Sled, is that correct?
Correct.
In your affidavit, you say, before the defense put up their case...
Object to leading.
Sir?
Leading.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Thank you. In your affidavit, you said, before the defense put up their case, Ms. Hill told the jurors, quote, the defense is about to do their side. They're going to say things that will try to confuse you. Don't let them confuse you or convince you or throw you off, unquote. Is this true? Did Ms. Hill say that?
That's exactly what she told us.
I'm sorry?
That's exactly what she told us.
Okay. The next thing you say is Ms. Hill made the above statement warning the defense would try to confuse us in the presence of all the jurors as we assembled in the same jury room. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, y'all were initially in two
We was in two separate rooms, and when she came in, we all went in one room.
Okay. Paragraph number 5, Ms. Hill said, if you get emotional, we want to see your face because that is what they want to see. What does that mean?
She said, don't get nervous. Don't be afraid to show your emotions because that's what they want to see.
Who wants to see?
I don't know who she was speaking of. I'm assuming the court.
Okay. And then number 6, Ms. Hill also informed us Alex Murdaugh was going to testify, but I don't recall exactly what she said. All the jurors were assembled in one room when she made that comment.
Exactly.
She told you that Alex Murdaugh was going to testify.
Exactly.
Did you know before that he was going to testify?
I think we knew that he was going to come up. I think he was supposed to do it the day before, but he didn't. And I knew he was going to be the last person that afternoon.
Okay. During the visit to Moselle, juror number 826 and I walked to the scene together. Then juror 826 began walking with the clerk of court, Becky Hill. I could tell they were talking. I could not hear what was said between them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is what you put in this affidavit truthful?
Yes, sir.
And this is what you told us back in
I don't remember.
August, I believe. I think I interrupted you cooking Sunday dinner.
Right.
All right, thank you. Please answer any questions defense may have for you.
Mr. Waters. Or Mr. Maddox.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. 741. It's nice to see you again. When's the first time you talked to Mr. Harpootlian or Mr. Griffin or any other attorney?
I can't tell you exactly. It's been months. It's probably been September, August. It's been months.
Okay. And were they the first attorney to talk to you, or was there somebody else that talked to you prior to them? Any other attorney?
No, I think he was the first person I talked to.
You sure?
I think. It was so many people trying to call me, and I was trying not to be involved, so I can't quite remember. But he was the first person I seen.
First person in person?
Yes.
Okay. So when he came to your house?
Yes.
Mr. Harpootlian came to your house?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, was Miss Holly with him? Holly, do you mind raising your hand? You see Miss Holly?
Yes.
Okay. And was anybody else with him?
Yes. He was.
Mr. Griffin?
Mr. Griffin.
Thank you. And you gave them a statement then, right?
Right.
Okay. And did they record you? I mean, were they audio or video recording you? Did they say we'd like to record this?
No.
They didn't?
But neither did the people that came out. They didn't. I didn't know I was being recorded by them neither.
I'm not trying to fuss.
Oh, okay.
But is there an audio recording of your conversation with them that you know of?
No.
Did they say?
None that I know of. No.
Okay. So you don't remember saying?
No audio recording. We're required to tell her if we're recording her under rules. We did record her.
He's on cross-examination. Mr. Maddox.
Thank you, Your Honor. And at that point, and that was again, do you remember, you said you think, was that around the end of August, 1st of September when they first came and talked to you? Roughly?
Roughly.
Okay.
I don't want to.
And you told them basically everything that you've told us now, right?
Yes.
Exact same thing?
Exact same thing that I told them.
Nothing less, nothing more?
Yes.
So, Mr. Harpootlian, and you didn't sign an affidavit back in September, or when you talked to him the first time?
No.
And why not?
Because he was just coming out to talk to me. He just was asking questions. It wasn't nothing officially. He had, so.
When you say nothing officially, I don't know what you mean.
He didn't. He was just coming out to ask. He was just asking questions about what went on during the trial. It wasn't.
Well, did they ask you to sign an affidavit that day?
No.
Okay. Did they ask you to sign an affidavit any time right after that?
No.
So they never asked you to sign an affidavit until this week?
No. I was supposed to meet with them a couple of occasions, but I was having my own personal issues and I couldn't come.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
So you told them at this first meeting, back at the end of August, 1st of September, that y'all going to hear some things that will throw you off. Don't let it distract you or mislead you. Is that what you said?
That's what. I didn't say that. That's what the clerk of court told.
Yeah, I'm saying that's what you said to them. I'm sorry. Okay. And where did that take place?
She would always stand like on the outside of the jury room, like in between, like on the outside. She would never really come inside the jury room.
So there were two rooms, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One room, and then the other room separated, correct?
Right.
And you couldn't hear people talk in the other room, could you?
No, that's why when she came, everybody came in one room.
Okay, so in this comment you said she made, did she bring everybody out in the hallway?
Some people was in the hall. That's why I said she was standing right at the head of the door.
Standing at the head of the door.
Right.
Was Mr. Bill there? Your bailiff?
Yeah, he would be standing in the hallway.
He's all out there, right?
Right.
And then she said in front of everybody, the defense is about to do their side. They're going to say things that will confuse you. Don't let them confuse you or convince you or throw you off. She said that to everybody.
She said that to everybody.
So everybody could have heard.
Everybody could hear it.
And you said you were all in the same jury room.
Yeah, we would all be in the same. When she came, she was standing in front of the door with the jury room that I was in, and everybody would come over. They would let us know before she came. They'll let us know after lunch she gonna come talk to y'all, and we all would gather together.
So would you go from the two rooms into one room?
Some would be standing out. She would stand in front of the door. Some would be standing around her outside the door, and some would be in the room. But it was clear enough for us to hear and see her.
And Mr. Harpootlian led you, and Ms. Hill made the above statement warning that the defense would try to confuse us in the presence of all of the jurors as we had assembled in the same jury room.
We was all in the same jury room. She would be on outside the door, and we would be in the room, and someone would be standing beside her. We was always all together when she came.
And do you think that was unusual?
No, because I guess she didn't want to walk back and forth from room to room.
No, the fact of what she said. Do you think that was unusual?
Yeah, I did.
And if you get emotional and see his face, they want people to see your face?
Because some of the jurors was getting emotional, and I guess she noticed it, so she commented on it.
And you said you didn't. The statement he read, she informed you that the defendant was going to testify, but don't recall exactly what was said.
After, yeah. I can't.
When was that?
That was, I think he came in that afternoon, like at 2:33. So that was before he testified, I think.
And where was it?
Oh, in the jury room. Where we were all, like I said, we would all meet.
And I guess what I'm saying is you're in two different rooms for a while, right? When y'all get up there, you split, don't you?
Yeah.
The people that talk loud in one room and the others in the other one? Pretty much.
No, it's not like that. It was just, they just split it off. They just asked us what room we wanted to go to.
So when you were fixing to come back to the jury room, to the box, you tell us you'd all go into one jury room together?
Only when she came to speak to us.
And Mr. Harpootlian asked you about, I believe, number 7 on the affidavit. And when did you sign this affidavit?
This morning.
Okay. And when's the last time you had talked to Mr. Harpootlian?
No, I haven't talked to him since he came to my house.
Or any of them before today?
No, I haven't talked to him since he came to my house.
Talked to anybody else involved in this case before today since then?
No, he was talking to my lawyer,
Okay, and who was that?
Sean Wilson.
Okay, and when had Sean Wilson talked to you?
He's been my lawyer
Since when?
since 2021.
Okay, when Mr. Wilson talked to you about this case and what you told Mr. Harpootlian prior to...
All right. They apparently don't object to this, but I am very uncomfortable with your asking what her lawyer told her.
And I wasn't going to time test. I was just looking for timing.
Well, she's told you a couple of times that he was her lawyer since 2021.
Well, see, you're a lawyer for this.
For what you mean for this?
Well, like being a juror.
For being a juror?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't have a. He was always my lawyer.
You didn't hire him for this.
No, I didn't hire him for this.
But he had talked to Mr. Harpootlian about your affidavit and your testimony today, hadn't he? Is that a yes?
Yes, he was looking over the paperwork. He was looking out for me because he's my attorney.
And when was he looking over the paperwork?
Oh, I guess ever since September, October. I wasn't really keeping up with it, to be honest, because I'm.
So do you know if he's talked to Mr. Harpootlian this week?
Yeah, he talked to him today.
Talked to him today?
We was together.
Who was together?
Me and my lawyer.
And Mr. Harpootlian?
Yes, when I went to go sign the affidavit.
Okay. Where did you sign it?
At his office.
At whose office?
Mr. Harpootlian's office.
Your Honor,
I was supposed to.
I would object.
Okay.
This meandering, I mean, there's no jury here. It's you. And I don't know what this
How
is.
about helping a little bit? I think we got all the information. Yeah, all right. I think he's going to move on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's the last question Mr. Harpootlian asked you about this affidavit, isn't it?
What was the last question?
During the visit to Moselle, Juror 8, say the number, whatever the letter is, it doesn't matter. You saw a juror, and I walked the scene together, then the juror began talking with the clerk of court. I could tell they were talking, but I couldn't hear what they were said between them. That's
Correct.
the last question he asked, right?
Correct.
So, and you have no idea what that conversation was about, do you?
No, I don't.
Now, the next, number 8, he didn't ask you about, was I also overheard discussions in the jury room that Miss Hill drove a juror home. I believe it was a juror whose nickname was Boston. Now, he didn't ask you that a minute ago, did he?
No, but okay, no.
And you didn't include that in the first conversation you had with them back in August and September in this affidavit. Miss Holly did you? You didn't tell them about that.
I can't remember.
Have you seen the affidavit Miss Holly did for you back in September 1st, 2022?
Miss Holly did not do an affidavit. Miss Holly
She
did
just told me.
her affidavit, her notes of what this young lady said to her, and what she included and didn't include was based on what Miss Holly thought was relevant at the time. But she can't be cross-examined.
That is not in evidence, Mr. Meadows, so I think you need
We'd
to
offer
move.
it, Your Honor.
Sir?
I'd offer it. Just to...
Well, how is this thing going to be authenticated?
You know, even more importantly, he can't question her. I'm sorry.
Several people can't talk at one time. I don't even have the affidavit. Let me see what you're talking. You talking about the one that was just offered today?
This is one Holly did when he first talked to her back in August, and she's referring back to
Miss Miller. Okay. Miss Miller.
This is Ms. Miller's affidavit about what she thinks this juror said.
Yes.
I'm not going to allow this, Mr. Meadows. I don't see a whole lot of difference between this and what's been said in the affidavit that has been offered by Mr. Waters, but I'm not going to allow that.
Okay, thank you. You did not tell them about hearing that Miss Hill had driven a juror home back when you met with them in September, did you?
I can't remember.
Boston?
She was a juror on the trial. I don't know her, but that was the nickname they gave her. I don't know her first name.
And what, if anything, did you know or convey about Boston?
She was a juror on the case, just like everybody else.
But anything else?
Nothing.
Ma'am?
No.
Okay. So again, Mr. Harpootlian didn't ask you, but when you, in the affidavit of today, I also overheard discussions in the jury room that Miss Hill drove a juror home. I believe it was a juror whose nickname was Boston. Is that something was added after your lawyer was with Mr. Harpootlian today?
I don't know if I added it. We talked about it today, but I don't know if I mentioned it in September or not. But I know
You've ever talked about it, wasn't it?
Your Honor,
No, it's not.
no reason to raise objection.
The first thing is, Mr. Meadows, I'm going to caution you one more time about this. You cannot talk over a witness. The second thing is, you don't need to be marching all back around here. You talking only to me, not the jury or anything else. So let's slow down, and this is repetitive of questions that have been asked before. If you want to take this tone with her, I don't know exactly what you're trying to accomplish.
I'm not trying to take tone. I apologize. She knows that, and I'm sorry.
Well, you're just talking to me. This is not some drama thing for the jury.
I know. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, let's finish this thing up.
The only reason I did it, what he hadn't asked about it, and it to me is the key issue here. They're trying to say was different.
Mr. Meadows, I mean, you lecturing to the witness or to me or what? Please don't do that. Strike that from the record, please.
Don't strike. Don't strike. I'm so sorry.
Let's line this up.
All
right.
In number 9 in the affidavit, that before the jury began deliberating, I heard a member of the court staff say the deliberation shouldn't take long. I don't remember specifically who made it, but it was made in the presence of the entire jury right after closing arguments in the jury room.
Correct.
Then I think you said something, Judge Newman came to see you afterwards, but after the jury went to their room, you were in a separate...
No. When we first left out the courtroom, we all went in the same jury room. And then they separated me.
And Ms. Simpson, when I didn't mean to raise my voice.
Oh, that's okay.
I apologize.
That's fine.
But when they started deliberating, were you in a separate room?
Yeah, when they started deliberating.
So you had no involvement in the deliberations or verdict of Richard Alexander Murdaugh?
No, sir. No, sir.
You didn't get to come back with the verdict, did you?
No, sir.
Have you read Miss Hill's book?
No.
Okay. And I noticed your interview. I did watch it. And I think Mr. Radford back there, would raise your hand, Kyle Radford, I think came to your place and interviewed you.
Right.
At some point during the trial, I think there was some discussion that somebody might have wanted to do an interview with you.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay. And then after the trial, I think there was some discussion. Somebody, since you weren't on the jury, they may not have wanted to interview you. You remember that, roughly telling the officer that?
Yeah, that's not what she said. She came to me roughly in the middle of the trial, and she said, I have a few people who would like to interview. She said she didn't say a few. She said, I have a lot of people that's inquiring to interview with you. She said, but I'll have to get with you after the trial. But after the trial, she came back in the jury room, and she started handing out cards. And she handed everybody cards but me. And she was like, I don't have any cards for you for an interview because no one wants to speak with you. That's what was said.
And did, I mean, you weren't happy with that, were you?
Yes, I was.
You were happy with that?
I don't need to be interviewed.
Dave Cortadol. To your delight, I'm sure.
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Meadows just asked you a series of questions that I'm not sure I've heard before. Who approached you during the trial and indicated the media would want to interview you?
Miss Hill.
Miss Hill?
Miss Hill herself.
Just you or all the jurors?
They had, I think it's the day they had the bomb threat, And I think that was the day. And she approached me.
You?
Me, by myself.
By yourself. And where were you?
That's the day in the lunchroom when they had the bomb threat. We went to the middle school. I believe that was the day.
The middle school. And she came over to you and said what?
That she had some reporters that was reaching out to her that wanted to speak with me.
To you?
Yeah.
Not the whole jury, to you. Was there anybody with you at that time?
No. It was
Did
just
she indicate why they wanted to speak with you? Just you?
No.
Did she indicate what reporters?
No.
And did she ever talk to you about doing interviews with the media after that?
No.
But you indicated she brought some cards at some point?
She brought cards in to hand to the jurors.
Before?
After.
After?
The verdict was read.
Cards of media people?
Yes, sir.
Did she tell you she was writing a book?
No.
Did she indicate to you why it might be good for her if you did media interviews?
No.
But she had a conversation with you in the lunchroom of the middle school.
I believe it was the lunchroom. I think the day of the bomb threat.
The day of the bomb threat.
I'm 100% sure she came to me and she told me that in the middle of the trial.
Was there a bailiff with her or just her?
No, it was just her.
Pulled you over and said, "Hey, I can make you famous. I can put you on TV."
She said she had media that wanted to talk to me. That's what she said.
Okay. Hyperbolized. I apologize, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
All right, no further questions, Mr. Harpootlian?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. All right, thank you very much, ma'am. You are excused. All right, Mr. Harpootlian, that it?
I need to put one matter on the record, Your Honor, and that is it.
All right.
As soon as I'm told what to put on the record.
All right, sir.
Just want to talk to her after that and make it part of the record. Your Honor, earlier today you received a very short affidavit from Juror Z. We'd like to proffer that and make it part of the record.
Right, I did not admit it, but I'll accept a written proffer, and if you would give the thing to me, I saw it on the screen on my law clerk's computer, but I don't have a printed out copy.
We don't either, but would you allow us to do that?
Well, I will allow, before I close the record with Ms. Harris, if you can get it to us. When can you get it to us?
We could email it this afternoon.
Very well. How about do this? How about email it to Mr. Waters, to me, to Ms. Diaz, and to Ms. Harris, the court reporter. And I will say now that it's offered as a proffer, and I will receive it as a proffer. I have not admitted it into evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Your Honor, we referred to earlier on a email to the Japanese television folks. I do have copies of that. I'd like to make that part of the record.
All right, but hand it up to me and let me see it. And also, of course, to Mr. Waters. I got two of these, Mr. Harpootlian. I'll give you one back.
Thank you.
That's the latest. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our coverage in the Alex Murdaugh murder trial and the hearings about possible jury tampering. I'm Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.
This has been a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.